Thank you. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for people online and whoever will be watching this in their convenient time. We are living in the era of AI. So today I want to talk to you about the hot topic that everyone is talking about, but uh, with me, two inspiring women in the area who will really tell us today a very exciting information about exciting topics as well. So I have with me Mara, and I'll talk about myself later because I'm the least important person today. But I have with me Mara. Mara is an AI experience architect at McKinsey Company, specializing in the creation and governance of digital experiences, driving proactive change. She helps organizations extend users' adoption of AI on a larger scale. Mara does that by shaping people business needs into novel and seamless experiences that generate transformative growth for organizations by responsibly weaving AI into customers, consumers, and employees' lives. And don't worry, we're going to explain what does it mean today. Okay, so thank you, Mara, and pleasure to have you today.
Thank you, Remy. Thank you for
And
introducing.
as well, it's a pleasure and honor to have with me Beth. So Beth is an established IT leader with expertise in digital transformation and cognitive science, founded Bast AI in 2022 to democratize ethical AI. Beth is recognized as a top AI ethics leader, and you can follow Beth online and you will see lots of good stuff. With a successful track record transforming AI and analytics into a $2 billion venture, Beth holds degrees in anthropology and classics and is known for her comprehensive grasp of explainable AI. Her influence extends through her parents, literally works like AI for the rest of us, and inspirational speaking. Beyond her career, Beth is a dedicated educator, mother, wife, and esteemed advisor, actively shaping the future tech landscape. And that's a lot, and we need to hear from Beth about that. So, really pleasure to have you both today. Thank you very much. And I'll just bring one slide. Maybe I should bring it earlier, but it has the agenda as well. And then we'll switch off the slide. It will be more of a discussion. So just give me a second. I'm switching Zoom here. Um, okay, so here's Zoom and sharing my screen. And it's me. So I'm Rami Amer. I am a tech lead in IBM as a customer success manager, and I came across AI back in 2014 when I was in China, in China, mainland China. I've worked with AI for a few years, then I left it. Then when the Gen AI boom happened again, I started, focusing on it because it's part of my job. So what I want to do is we talked about Mara. Mara is based in UK, London, and I'm based in Auckland, New Zealand, and Beth is in the United States in Denver. So we're going to talk about one, two, three, six topics today. And like I said, it's a discussion, so maybe we'll talk about more. So we're going to talk about human-centered approach. I'll try really to understand what that means because we appreciate that there are lots of hype and nice terms and expressions that people struggle to understand what that exactly mean and is it important or whatever AI experiences, which I personally very passionate about understanding it first, what AI experience means, human AI synergy, fairness, diversity in AI. So these are the six topics. And the way we're going to run this, I just want to stop sharing my screen. The way we're going to run this is it will be a discussion, like I said, so it will not be boring slides. Can I ask you? Oh, what happened? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I see. I cannot see Zoom anymore. So I was like, okay, I've been disconnected, but okay, good that we stay here. Now I can see Zoom. Okay. Okay. let me set the stage with these topics, and then I'll start, if you don't mind, Beth and Mara, asking you some questions, or maybe difficult questions. So to set the stage, maybe I'll start with question to you, Beth and Mara. I mentioned in the agenda a human-centered approach. So I really want to understand from your perspective, both, what human-centered AI means to you, and how it can fundamentally change the way we design and implement AI systems. So whoever wanna take the first shot, please talk to us about human-centered approach.
I can start and then let's hear from Beth. So, human-centered approach I mean, first of all, it's a way to me at least, to design AI systems with at the center human needs, wants, and intents. And that is a very nice thing to say, but very hard to put in practice. Because as you said, Remy, earlier, there are a lot of very hyped, very nice, marketish ideas and frameworks that are being used and attached to the word AI, and human centered is one of them. But and unfortunately, it's kind of losing its meaning, in the sense that this word, I mean, the definition of human centered approach to AI has a meaning when we try to apply that into our concrete and tangible and tactical development choices and design choices. And so, as I said, and I wrote about it, unfortunately, just in Italian in my previous book, but what I see human-centered AI is an holistic way of thinking about not just humans in the sense of as users, so from the point of view of the action, but also from the point of views of the thinking and the feelings. So it's really taking consideration humans from the beginning in their all entirely, not just as users of a service or a product. And from that perspective, then try to focus the application of the idea that you want to build, of the system that you want to build, then narrowing it down to a user. But first, we need to think about humans holistically, because AI has changed a lot of the interactions and our perception of the world, and how we interact with the world and with people. And so we need to take a very open mind from the very beginning when we design these systems, and think about many considerations that are just not, as I said, right? User-centric considerations of how someone interacts with a product, with a digital product, but also about ethical considerations, sociological considerations, philosophical considerations of how we are gonna have a different experience of the world through AI, and how we're gonna have a different experience with a digital product with AI. So that's how I frame usually human-centered approach to AI.
Yeah, and
But I'm
Mara,
curious
while
about
you're
Beth.
talking, yeah, I'll come to Beth in a second. Just want to maybe comment to what you said. While you were talking in the beginning, I was saying I'm not convinced with this definition in the beginning. That's like why it's not user center, why it's human, and because we usually bring AI and human, and sometimes we make it scary because AI will replace people, whatever. So why we always use human, but when you start saying, it's about the ethical aspect, our perception, that's more of the human. It's not just a user of a product, so it really makes sense. So yeah, I'm convinced from our perspective, but I want to hear also from Beth and understand her perspective. So Beth, again, welcome and nice to meet you. And I would like maybe to hear from you, Beth, as well, what human-centered AI approach means for you.
Sure. Rami, would you like to stop sharing your screen? You're still sharing the slide deck. So
And
I did go.
I want this feedback, to be honest. We have someone to help me. That's one. And the second thing, can you hear
Thank you.
Mara
Good
well, or
point.
her
True.
voice is low? So, Beth, can you hear Mara? Or her voice is not, can you hear?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can hear
Okay,
her. She's
good.
good.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, very, very well. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Excellent. Everything that Mara said and all of your points, Rami, I think that that is absolutely correct. The thing that I would add is that I believe that human-centered really means that the intent by which any AI is built is to amplify or augment human abilities rather than replace them. So the goal is to, have systems or, create things that are in place that are working synergistically with human beings and allowing them to leverage AI in a way that amplifies or augments while maintaining control and agency. And I think that, some of the things that I teach in the fact of like, data is an artifact of human experience. A human being either creates the data or creates the system that creates the data. And now we have AI systems that were created by human beings that are using human created language to generate machine language, but that machine language is still an artifact of a human experience. And I think that, when you think about like the intent of these machines and these AI systems that we created, in order to make them human-centered, it goes back to the intent is to augment or amplify human beings rather than replace them. And that's as simple as I can try to make it, because it's very complex, but I think that it is not in our nature to always think about the intent of how we are going to be creating a tool. But I think in this, it is incredibly important to make sure that everybody is aligned with the understanding that you are creating an AI system that will amplify or augment a human being.
Yeah, I think, Beth, it makes sense. And again, it brings some positive view of this new technology when we say it augments, it helps the human in the experiences. So yeah, I think I feel some emotions when I hear the human-centered AI approach. I think, it's really something deep with the human being. And maybe I'm just thinking that when we talked about user experience before, there were some methodologies and user journey, whatever. So maybe human-centered AI will have something similar, how you will think about the emotion, the thinking, the ethics as well, how you can bring everything when you're designing an AI system. So yeah, I think that makes sense. Thank you very much, Beth and Mara. Okay, I will move to the next topic. Maybe I will ask Mara this, and then I would like if Beth want to add anything, will be great. So Mara, the AI experience, I think it's again it's a nice term, but I'm also interested not only from consumer perspective but from enterprise, because both of you work with companies as well. What an AI experience means, and do you have a point of view about that, Mara? Like how have user expectations shifted, and what are the most significant changes you've seen in the interaction between humans and AI systems? So if you can shed some light on that, Mara, would be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And AI experience, I mean, I've been building a development framework for AI experiences because by working with enterprises and different clients across industries, what I'm realizing more and more is that we need to switch our focus again, not on building AI services and products, so the ultimate goal, but about we need to think about how to create experiences for humans to use AI. And on this, I pick on Beth's point on AI should augment and enhance human capabilities and us, not replace us. And that's recognition, identification of that intent is at the core of creating AI experiences. Because once we understand, they codify humans' intents, what they want to achieve, their purposes, their goals, then we can craft new experiences by using AI to inscribe them into products and services eventually, but they are just containers of what ultimately is the experience that humans will have through AI. And so I think that my effort also in the job title that I'm creating now for myself, AI experience architect, again, is not a marketing operation, and that's super important to me to make clear. It's really an effort to help clients, organizations, and AI advocates, everyone that is working in AI, in shifting the focus on the experience of the people and humans. That ultimately led us to build products, applications, services consumed by users, employees, customers, consumers, so people in general. But first there is the focus on AI experience, and that is also important because it helps us thinking of what is changing through AI in our daily experiences. As I mentioned earlier with the word. And again, I link back to what something that Beth said before, agency, for example. To me, the optimal AI experience today is framed through 4 pillars, one of which is agency. Because in a world where we have AI agents that can independently make decisions without the intelligence that built them, so humans, us, we need to design and build experiences that preserve our human agency, our ability to make decisions in spite of coexisting with AI systems that also can make decisions. So how do we think about experiences that augment and preserve our free will and our autonomy in making decisions, in taking actions on something? This is a core pillar of agents of the AI experience. And the other 3 that I think are very important and we need to keep in mind when designing AI experiences are trust, of course, which is all linked to the ethical problems that maybe we will have the chance to explore further. Attention, because we need to make these systems work for us, for our priorities, and take control back on what are our priorities, not the AI's priorities. It's really about designing a world of choices for people that matters to people, not matters to AI. And then eventually, I think that it's very important to think about specificity. How do we infuse the domain knowledge, our own data, which I love how Beth frame usually the data as artifact of the human experience, in fact, to make these LLMs, these systems work for each of us, as opposed to everyone, because LLMs were designed for everyone and no one at the same time. And we need to make them specific, so working for each of us. So this is AI, this is the concept, the North Star of the optimal AI experience to me.
Okay. And Mara, people are listening now and they're saying, okay, it sounds like a nice concept. How can I go after this webinar or event and go to my company and start talking to them about the AI experience? Where I start? Do we have a framework publicly available or methodology? Because you mentioned attention, you mentioned, being personal, domain knowledge. So in your mind, I understand, and maybe from your job perspective, there is a way of doing it. But do we have anything publicly available, any community, anything that people can go and read about to understand how they can start about designing AI experiences, or it's still too early and maybe people like you and Beth and others already, have their own view of what AI experiences is, how you approach a new project, for example, and designing experience. Because if I Google now UX or user experience, I'll have heaps of methodologies and approaches and everything. But how they can maybe learn more about AI experience?
It's not a product or a framework, like, and also I caveat that, right? I'm not talking for my organization. I'm talking
Absolutely.
because this
Yeah.
is my approach to
Yeah.
my clients' problems when
Yes.
I solve problems on AI. So very early, it's this concept, and this is my approach, which is rooted in many frameworks, but also approaches, and depends by the problem that you want to solve, by what people want to achieve, right? And always starts from listening to people, and then you can have different frameworks. Beth and I worked a lot on design thinking for AI, for example, on frameworks of that type, which is still super relevant to me on my daily job, because design thinking helps brings diversity and different perspective from the very beginning and framing problems of people, but it's not the only one. So it really depends from people's problem, first of all, but the important is to keep in mind how you design this experience. And that's why I mentioned pillars as opposed to very rigid frameworks, because problems change. You have to have different approach. The important though is to keep in mind what you want to achieve eventually. So keep in mind the human-centered approach, so your users, your human intentions, to shape into experience, trust and ethics, and keeping in mind agency and attention. And then you create them by designing with people and by informing the development practices with the insights that you get from people, and with the help of testing and evaluation methodologies that are still early in the research, but there are different ways then to make this in practice.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And Beth, do you have any point of view? Maybe you want to also talk about from about AI experiences, if any?
I just want to amplify what Mara said, is that they're designed to prioritize human needs, values, and well-being, not computer needs, values, or well-being.
Okay. Okay. No, I think, yeah, I think, and that again, that ties back to the human-centered AI approach again. That's the change I would say. I wouldn't think maybe in user experience we talk about well-being, maybe for employees in an enterprise. No, but I think it's all about human-centered. So I'm connecting now. It's AI experience, and it will be human-centered, right? So things that we didn't think about before is what we want to bring today to the design thinking. And I just want to say to people online, because Deep Learning.ai event was all about, talking about new things for people's career, go and read. So looks like watch the space. I myself will keep Googling AI experience and similar terms and see how this will be evolving, because whatever we call it, AI experiences or human-centered AI experience, but there will be something new about how we design AI systems, given what Beth and Mara mentioned about the human element that's really deep into these systems and the impact it makes. So thank you very much, Beth and Mara. And maybe I will move to another question to both of you. In your view, what does an ideal collaborative relationship between humans and AI look like? How can we ensure that AI complements rather than replace the human intelligence? So I think we talked about, okay, human-centered AI approach, like Beth said, actually it's to extend, it's to augment, it's to help a human. But how we see this ideal collaborative means, and I'm trying to talk maybe from a consumer, yes, world, but also from enterprise, and if anyone has any view about how this ideal collaborative relationship between humans and AI look like will be great. And whoever wanna, come first on stage will be welcomed.
Beth, I talked already too much. Go ahead.
It's I think it's very good. I think that Mara, you inspire me. I'm like writing down some of the things that you're saying, and the thing that I always try to tell people is human beings, much like AI systems, tend to do what we are doing, not what we say we will do. So
Yes.
the best way to create, human-centered design systems is to make sure that those human values that are at the center of the priority and the intent by which you're creating the AI system to amplify and augment people, that it models the values that you hold dear as a human being.
Mm.
And to answer your question, very literally, the best type of human and machine collaboration models what the human values. So models attribution, models reciprocity, models sustainability, models the things that a human being would value. And that first one, that attribution, many people tell me, and the type of AI that we build at Bast is fully explainable AI, because we have full attribution for every source and every output that we create. So we do all of the work to make sure that we are very clear about this particular output was created from this source. Here's a picture of the page with the paragraph that it comes from. So we have that full attribution. And so many people come to me and say, well, Beth, that doesn't really matter unless it's like, a high risk probability or something like that. But it does matter, because we use attribution in order to engage in trusted relationships. And we use attribution to say, I am part of your tribe. I am part of your culture, by giving credence to a famous author or a famous artist, or, wearing the clothing. Or we do attribution all the time in a way that models what we value, and models what we love, and models the culture we belong to, and models the things that we think about that are important to us. And so the AI human machine collaboration should model what we believe in and what we are doing as human beings, and modeling those values is a way to teach other people that they can trust what you are building.
And Beth, really, I love what you said, seriously. And I'm trying maybe to unpack this to say, maybe a culture element for a model that would be used in a part of the world, because you said like a famous actor that we like, or I don't know, maybe a food or clothes that you said, right? Because if I go back to the human-centered AI, we usually connect when we have things in common. Like, for example, today we are all talking and people are listening because we are all interested in AI. Maybe someone not interested will feel that, you know what, I don't want this. So that's another thing. Like there could be a culture element, that how we can make this model culture fit as well. And if I look at an agent within an enterprise, for example, I would say the same thing that every hiring manager would say is it a hiring a culture fit agent, right? Because maybe I get a model in some part of the world and use it in another part of the world, and you find that this agent was very successful in this part of the world, but now, no, there are people are saying, no, I don't want to work with this agent, so helping me is definitely not aligned with my thinking. So that's very interesting, Beth. Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Mara, do you want to add anything around the human AI synergy bit?
No, absolutely no. And I loved Beth attribution concept. Really like it.
Good. I think someone wants to ask question. So yeah, we have questions here. Sorry, Rivati, I haven't seen that you were asking a question. So if you don't mind, Beth and Mara, I will say the question. The question, I think it was during some of the discussion that we had, is uh, it means that humans are the core decision makers. That's the question. So maybe that goes back to you, probably, Mara, when you were saying that we want the agents to work for us. So Rivati is asking, in that process or framework, do you see the humans are the core decision makers? And Rivati, feel free, Rivati, to ask your question again if I didn't get it right, but that's my understanding. Do you see the humans are still the core decision makers in the process?
Yes, and we need to make the effort to keep humans to be the main decision makers, right? We need to preserve, as I said before, our agency. And so, yes, in any experience that we design, we need to be ultimately the ones that make decisions, especially the important ones. And then depends, right? Maybe there are shallow decisions on pick the color of the nuance of the color of this t-shirt in a manufacturing process, and maybe you want to delegate that decision to AI, and it's fine. But when it comes to important decisions or values, as Beth was mentioning before, right, how decisions around how we model what we love the world, it's like it's important that we remain in control of that. At least this is my perspective.
Okay, no, I think it's interesting, and I'm not sure. Sometimes I ask myself, when we say we'll be the core decision maker, I think it makes sense ethically, safe AI, I would say. But people have expectations that no, we want to take the human out of the process as much as we can in the execution of the actions. But maybe when we teach the model, the learning process, the training process, this is where we'll feed the model with what we want them to do. So I think there is a training process about, what we want the model to, how the model should perform. But once it's trained, we should trust it that it can take decisions on the behalf, which doesn't make sense because the accuracy of this and your hallucination is expected, and how you can reach this 100% confidence that the model will act the way that you want 100%. So, but that's my perspective on it. And anyway, so Rivati, if you have any question, anyone has question, I think Rivati is asking again. Okay, you said thank you. No problem. Okay, I will move now to maybe Beth, because Beth, you talked about I think the ethical AI a few times, and I'm interested on your perspective on fairness. So we talked about human-centered approach. How fairness relates to that? When it comes to fairness in AI, what are some practical steps AI developers can take to mitigate bias and ensure that AI benefits everyone, especially under represented groups? Like, if I'm applying for a job, I'm a people of color. If I'm a woman, for example, and I want to make sure that I'll be treated fair, that's my expectation. That's I'm giving just an example. So if a company is saying we have an excellent AI system that will filter, select, evaluate candidates one day, I think this is one of the things that people are worried about. I'm expecting to be treated fairly, and I want to say, I read a study before saying even in interviews, 70% of the interviews are very subjective and biased because we are human, we are very biased. So imagine when we build a system for fairness, I think it will be very hard because we need lots of diversity in that. So I'm interested in your perspective, Beth. How can we connect the human-centered approach to fairness?
So you're right, Rami. Human beings have over 188 cognitive biases and counting. There's a cognitive bias codex that you can look up all of the different biases that people have. And most of them we're unaware of. They are unconscious bias. And it's something that is very difficult to see unless you happen to have an AI system that can mirror some of that bias back to you. And what we know when we practice data science is we need a diverse and representative data set. But what I don't think that people recognize is that connection between like a statistical diversity where you have a really wide variance so that you can have a standard mean. That's something that not a lot of people really understand. And I'd love to tell the audience about like one of the most beautiful algorithms that exist in the world today. And it's called the diversity prediction algorithm. And it's also known as the wisdom of the crowds. And what this is it's a mathematical theorem. And this mathematical theorem means that it's QED, it's proven, it will happen, and it will always be correct every single time because it's a law. It's one of those things that has a proof. And the mathematical theorem is best described as the wisdom of the crowds, because if you take 1,000 homogeneous people, so let's say 1,000 white guys, and you ask them to guess the number of jelly beans in a jar, and you take the average of all of their guesses, it's going to be closest to the truth than any one of the individual guesses. Or if you take 10 people of significant diversity, both like old people, young people, people who speak different languages, people who, you know, come from different places, the average of those 10 people will be closer to the truth than the average of the 100 people.
Yeah.
And so that is a really good way to start to think about the type of diversity that we need in the data set in order to do some of these mathematical processes in order to ensure fairness or representation. And that representation right now is very lacking, because the people who are making the choices on what data sets go into the language models, how those data sets really represent people of all cultures, how those data sets represent people of all ages, people, you know, who speak different languages, there's not enough. And there's not enough diversity in the representative data sets that we have today. And we know this because the systems are biased. And we can see that bias in the systems and in the AI. So if you really want to ensure fairness, you first have to answer the question of fairness to whom? And then you have to make sure that you have a data set that represents the diversity that is representative of whom you want to ensure fairness for. And then you have to understand, how are you going to audit this algorithm? Do you know what happens if it's 99% correct? What happens when it's 1% wrong? Is that something that's consistent? And in the notion of machine learning, we call that test, retest reliability. And currently, we have none of that happening, because the answers none of that happening with large language models and generative AI, because it's not consistent. So when the answer is wrong or there is a hallucination, you don't have a consistent way to have the test, retest reliability to know when that errors out or when that pulls from a non-diverse data set. What does that look like?
Yeah, Beth, I love that. I love the topic. And it's just, when you were talking, I'm trying to let some examples to me in my personal life and also at work. And I think what you talked about is interesting around maybe AI governance. How can we do that, right? Yeah, you set up an excellent model, you think it's fair, but it will be drifting. And how we can make sure that we are monitoring this drifting, can we really fix it quickly and be on track? That's one. The other thing is, I was also thinking what you're talking, Beth, because we always talk about bias and fairness as if human beings are really fair. So at the end of the day, if I replace the AI or the technology, any process today is happening by a human being or a group of human beings. And we assume that when you have a group of human beings, things will be fair. No, to be biased as well. I'm thinking the recruitment is just a simple example that people can relate to. You can argue that maybe using AI can improve fairness. Maybe it's not 100%, but in some cases, I'm not saying in all cases, if you think about the data set and the people who are creating this data, and we get the diversity, as you said, for example, Beth, maybe you will improve fairness in certain areas, while human being cannot do it because we are not having this diversity. We are not thinking about how the quality of our output is, and people are biased at the end of the day. So I think there is an opportunity to improve things here. Thank you, Beth. I want to say something before I go to Mara. Revathi, I will talk about what you mentioned because it's interesting. It's the topic of today. So it's good that you're saying that. I'll just say what you said and I will answer at the end with Beth and Mara. You're saying I'm currently a college student and I love this tech and AI. That seems like magic. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, if it's magic or not. How do I start my career in the field? I think that's a valid question. And we'll talk about, some career advice from Mara and Beth as well towards the end. So just stay with us till the end. We're gonna finish in less than 20 minutes anyway. Thank you, Beth. Mara, do you want to add anything around fairness?
Not on fairness, because I guess Beth has said everything about it. I would just maybe, at least the majority of the Beth is saying no. The majority, you said more than definitely what we hear about. Let's put it this way. And in fact, what I wanted to say is that when you, Rami, asked how people can put these conversations right in practice, I I want to stress the fact that people should ask the questions that Beth was asking. Like the most important to start with is fairness to whom, because we talk about a lot of biases. But what does it mean eventually if we don't take into account everything Beth said about fairness? Fairness to whom? How do you control it? How do you evaluate your pool of data? Is it fair or not? Right? And to pile up on this topic, I think that also the explainability practices are super overlooked. And because of that, we don't know when a system is off. We don't know how the system is interpreting the data that we are giving it. So, unfortunately, there is a lack in bridging the human understanding of these systems and the data that they use. And explainability should help us in taking back control of the AI's outputs, but also to better understand how they behave and answer some of the questions that Beth was emphasizing, right? About fairness and biases. Because what's happening is that mostly AI ethics is confused with AI governance, risks management practices. We need to make this system fair, but what does it mean? We don't even know sometimes what fairness means to us, what fairness means for an organization. We don't articulate that. So by doing that effort, then we can track metrics, dimensions, and statistical ways to measure if our systems are fairness to some of the group of pools of um, uh, people represented by the data that the AI uses. So
Yeah, and Mara, I think it's interesting, and I always say to myself, it's not about the system, it's about the process in the first place. So, like you said, fairness, what does it mean in a certain organization? I know as a human being, we can say we all agree on what fairness means, but I think when you come to the details, people will have different view. What's fair, what's not fair? If you are in a meeting, people will say, "Oh, that's not fair." Someone will say, "No, no, no, it's not fair." So how we define fairness, like you said, within our organization, then we implement it in a system, and that's why I'm thinking with all the fairness, ethics, whatever, we should see a chief ethical officer, ethics officer in a company or some organization within the company that could be the center of truth and define this for an enterprise. Because, like I said, it's important terms, but we need to understand where in the organization will be the place where people will publish what fairness means for us. What's the policy? What's the guidelines that you need to follow to make sure that whatever you're doing is fair, and then the system will be implemented based on that. So I think I agree with both of you, Beth and Mara. Okay, I will move to
Hold
the
on for a
next.
second,
Sorry, Beth.
Remy. So this is Mara, again, you kind of inspired me on just thinking through this. And it's not often I get to talk to other women AI experts. So this is such a treat. And I really love it. And Rami, the way that you posted that, it's not just like people jump from fairness to AI governance and ethics, but there's a lot in between. What if we just took it as, how do we know the system gave us the right answer? How do we know that the system gave us the wrong answer? Right? What is right? What is wrong?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
in what context? And I think that this is, it was something that I noticed almost immediately, because I had to learn myself, is thinking probabilistically, or thinking that things don't have a right or wrong answer. They have an answer that my quote is, algorithms are only probably correct some of the time. So like, how do we know what is right? How do we know what is wrong in a probabilistic framework? Because it's only right to a certain extent that you have the data that represents true positive or false positive.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's something that I had never connected before this. And it is, you know, honestly, one of the best reasons that I do things like this is because you need diverse thoughts in order to come up with good ways to connect dots. But I had never
Absolutely.
connected that before this time. So
And Bess, I think you're reading my
I
mind
love it.
because you said something around diversity here, the word diversity, and this is my next question to you and Mara, diversity in AI. So thank you. So uh, maybe starting with Bess, I'll pick up Bess here now and say, could you share your perspective on why diversity and inclusion, especially with more women in AI, and I'm very interested in your view here, are crucial for shaping the future of AI. And I would say that, yeah, I talk to colleagues, I'll be very honest with you, and they are very brilliant, but there is imposter syndrome. They are feeling like, no, I don't want to talk, I don't want to do it. Maybe I'm not the right person. So, uh, but I think diversity is very important as well. So how you share your perspective on diversity inclusion, Beth?
women are not the dominant paradigm. So we challenge the status quo. And that is probably one of the hardest things to get your head around, because it seems like women being 51% of the population should have 51% of the voice or 51% of the data. But that is not the world that we live in because of the social biases that exist in our cultures. And I think that there is a big advocacy for women, and lots of men like you, Rami, are very much advocates for women to be in that perspective. And I would ask you, is it because of the different perspectives that we bring?
200%. I will tell you why. And I just want to say quickly, who educated me about this is my wife. When I started my life, I couldn't really understand how women think, right? And I had my own opinion. But my wife proved that she can think about 200 things at a time. She's very analytical. She has attention, back to what Mara said, to details. When we go to in a shop, she tells me, "Have you seen this and this?" And she connects everything and analyzes it quickly. And at work, I meet many smart women, and I see this as well. And when we work in a project, for example, and you get different perspectives, women, people of color, whatever, right? Different parts of the world, as you said, Beth. I see there is very rich outcome, right?
Mhm.
So I'm not saying I'm defending the women, but I think for the outcome, yeah, having women enrich the outcome anyway.
That's right. And imagine if we know that we're missing, let's say we got, maybe 10% of the women. So we're still missing 40% of the
Yes,
world's perspective, 40% of the discoveries, 40% of all of the various things that we could do with these systems, all of the various data systems that could create new and elevated understanding. We also know that, women have a tendency, and this is a generalization, to be more empathetic, to be more compassionate, to be more nurturing, to be more understanding. And I think our world could be a very different place if we did have more representation of women in AI, in data science, in our data.
absolutely, 100%. I was just saying something. Maybe it's a specific area, but people saying in shopping, for example, 90% of the decisions by women. And I've heard something like that, right? So it's just shopping. You can think about healthcare. You can think about schools and being a teacher for my children, right? Many areas that women are really pioneering, like maybe men as well. They are good in areas, so we need to bring the two together. Okay, that's good, Beth. Thank you very much for this perspective. Mara, do you want to add anything to this?
Not really, but maybe that it's an effort, right? We're not
Mhm.
there yet, unfortunately. So we also need more, I guess, accountability and responsibility from women in general,
Mhm.
and be braver, being tribalizer, saying out loud their opinions, their thinking, not be scared. And it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of effort. It's not easy. So it's us also that, I mean, we can shape this world by our actions. Coming back to agency, there you go.
Yes. Yeah.
And but it's an effort. It's not easy. It's a constant choice every day, and through your work, through your artifacts, through what you do, you need to show that.
Yeah,
That
I like what you're saying, Mara, because yes, you can sit and cry and ask for, I'm a victim, and that someone can do that. But at the same time, you need to stand up for yourself. You need to see how you change that as much as you can. Definitely, hopefully, you'll find someone to help you. So, and that's not determined, even for people, whoever feels like, I'm not well represented here. So yeah, someone will come and give you support. But like you said, if you're in a meeting, speak up, say your opinion, right? It's fine. If it makes sense, it's fine. If it doesn't make sense, it's still fine. Not everyone says the right thing all the time. Yes, Mara, you want to say something?
no, go better. Then I'll tell
Sorry,
you.
Beth. I haven't seen. Sorry
I
about
was,
that.
I was, so Rami, you just said you are not well represented here because you're on a podcast with two women. And I used to do this all the time because I was in a lot of promotion boards, especially at IBM. And I would go into the promotion board, and when I submitted myself to scrutiny, I gave over all of my patents, all of my writing, all of my code, all of everything that I ever did. And I would hand it over to a board of people who would crawl through everything that I had ever done. Now, you imagine doing that with 20 women and 2 men versus 20 men, which is what we did, and 2 women. And so you have a perspective that is something that we think a lot about. My opinion is that we think a lot about the signals that we're sending, but we very rarely think about the way that it's received.
Yes.
And when you are on that other side and you're thinking about exactly what you just pointed out in this podcast, is that you are not well represented, it's harder to speak up. And it's harder to allow for that space for other people to speak up when they are not represented. So we could all do better on both sides. But I think the diversity, especially in AI, is so important because, again, we all agreed, at least on this podcast, that we want human-centered AI. We want to design to amplify the human being. And in order to do that, we need men and women and non-binary and everything. We might even need whale songs. Who knows? We need all of the diversity that we can think of because we are really screwing ourselves out of perspectives when we can't even see that we are missing 51% of the population.
Absolutely. 100%. Fully agree. I'm a husband, I'm a father for a daughter, and I have colleagues at work, so I'm really supportive of that. Can I ask a question, Beth and Mara? We should wrap up in 5 minutes, but I'm wondering if you can stay another 5 minutes or you have a hard stop in 5 minutes.
I can say for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
Mara, is it okay? Just to finish two
Yeah,
questions, actually.
yeah.
Okay. And for people listening as well, really appreciate that. We have a question. Okay. Okay. It's just a comment, by the way. I will mention it, Rafi, but anyway, let's move on. Uh, Beth and Mara, a role of women in AI. I think we're coming back to this again. Um, you have been a significant figure in advancing women's roles in AI. What unique perspective do women bring to AI? I like the question. And how can the industry further support the inclusion of women and other diverse groups? So if you try to be specific, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but your perspective would be good. If someone is challenging me here and say, okay, what women can bring to AI unique, because men can bring something and women as well. So from your perspective and your experience, what women can bring to the AI? Maybe Beth, you already mentioned the empathy and some stuff that you mentioned, but do you want to add anything else, Mara and Beth, about what women can bring to AI?
I would honestly elevate a bit the discussion, right? In thinking, as we said so far, about diversity in general. And honestly, if we look at humans, each of us brings something to the world and can bring something to AI. And that's what we were saying before about making AI specific and working for us, because we can give our data, our interpretation of the world, and we need so much diversity in these kind of interpretations, as Beth said, to make this work better and for us. So I wouldn't focus on what qualities women bring, check what men and what binary. No, it doesn't work like this. It's in the purpose of diversity, we should really start thinking differently, rather than this group brings this group brings that. Everyone brings something unique.
Yeah, no, you're saying that there's no scoring.
Well
Yes, Beth.
said.
Yes, Beth.
Yeah, well said, Mara. Like, and that's what it bothers me to get into the binary conversation of what do men bring, what do women bring. Every individual has their story, and every individual has a set of information that is currently missing from the systems that we are building today. And I don't even think that we can imagine a world in which everyone has a representation. So it's something that is both the promise and, you know, the somewhat of the fear, I think, of AI is that you have the ability to have this hyper personalized experience, and we don't know what that's like because we haven't even come close to achieving the diverse types of neocortexes that need to go into to putting all of this together.
Okay, and the second part of the question is how can the industry support the inclusion of women and other diverse groups? If you are the CEO of the industry, what do you want to do?
Yeah, I think give attribution. Make sure that things are explainable. Make sure that you have you've done your best to do representation. But I think it's so much harder of a question because there's a lack of understanding today about how many people are making choices in order to build out AI models, and how many of those choices are made by a very homogeneous set of human beings. And we need to have far more diversity than we have today. And that type of cultural variation, my belief is AI will never get to become anywhere near what it is promised to do until we do have that diversity. AI does not get adopted unless it has that type of explainability.
Yeah.
Businesses do not trust AI that don't have the test retest reliability. So we have a lot of work to do.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, Beth. Amara, do you want to add anything to how the industry should support women and diverse groups in general?
No, I think we have said a lot about that, and it starts from hiring, right? Hiring practices, especially, and making sure that you commit to have diverse people when you hire. You don't take the same people from the same colleges, the best ones,
Correct.
all white dudes from the same type with the same type of skills, right? It's a completely different mentality hiring for diversity because you care about diversity in the organization.
Absolutely. Okay. We got one question on my list, and then I want to talk about career advice. I'm gonna get 4 minutes. So if we can just briefly you address this question will be quickly, and then I'll get 2 minutes from you about career advice as well, because people are sending questions about career advice. So if you could paint a picture of an ideal future by ethical and human-centered AI, what that would look like? So
You say
ethical and
ideal. Oh,
human-centered AI.
future.
Yeah, sorry,
Oh,
Beth.
AI is compassionate.
Okay, I love that. Okay.
I love it.
I like short and sweet. I like it and says a lot. Mara, do you have any comment on that? The vision for AI, bringing the
I
ethics?
really liked the attribution a concept that Beth said before. So I was about to say it gives a back attribution of the sources that it uses and what it produces.
Okay. No, I love that. It's a good takeaway for me, Beth. Thank you. And thank you, Mara. Okay, so just again for the type of people who will be watching this, they are really keen about advice and career advice. So both of you, Mara and Beth, definitely are ahead in your career, and I'm sure that you walked a very long journey to be where you are today. But just imagine if someone hearing this is, like a very interesting technology. I'm hearing very good talk about it, but I'm struggling where to start. And I'm not asking you to list all the entry points, like being technical technology. No, no, no. From your perspective, if someone wants to start their career in AI, what they should be doing. So any career will help. Any advice, sorry, will help.
Okay, I'll start by saying that I'm not even nearly at the point where Beth is, because she has a very
Absolutely,
long
absolutely.
career.
Yeah,
I'm
everyone
still
everyone in a
at the
different level, but
beginning compared.
comparing to people on the call, you might be ahead. That's
That's
what I meant.
exactly, and that's why she's a mentor to me and a role model. I just wanted to frame that, but and we both come from a very different background, right? I mean, we bond together because we both come from classics. We studied classics, and then that brought us to data and AI and in different ways. So I would definitely encourage people that want to get into this domain. I always say to get up to speed with some AI literacy grounded in coding, but not because you have to become a data scientist or an AI engineer or whatever, but because you need to learn the languages on which these systems are shaped and understand how these systems work. It's like getting to know a new team member, right? And its own language. And this language is based on coding and data. And so a bit of that, if you want to get in this domain, I think it's needed always. And that's my first advice. And then honestly, it's like arm yourself with critical thinking now more than ever. So all the critical thinking virtues that we can think of, empathy, love for the truth, accountability. We are gonna need these skills again more than ever right now, especially with the AI that has reached this power. And yeah, I would say start working, get your hands dirty. It's the only way to really learn from your client, from the people you serve, doing good job, try to solve problems, try to think through the problems that you solve with AI, and that's the best way, honestly.
Okay, thank you, Mara. Thank you. Beth, do you have any career advice to people who are listening?
Two pieces. First, I'm going to summarize everything that Mara said with what I thought at first. Prove to yourself that it's not magic. If you think AI seems like magic, prove it to yourself by understanding. And Mara, I love what you said about AI literacy. You do need to know something about programming because that is the language that is created, is how AI is created. And that's possibly the best way to prove to yourself that it's not magic. And then the second is simple. A career is something you look back on, not something you plan. Follow your curiosity. That's the best career advice. And don't be worried that you don't have a career. That's something you can look back on and say, this is how it all makes sense. Not
Absolutely.
something you need to do right now.
Yeah, when we look back, we can connect the dots and understand a lot about how we came here, right? I just want to
That's
say
right.
one thing before thank you and wrap up. There's a comment to you, both of you, Mara and Beth. So someone said, "Women like them." It means like, or she means like you. Inspires me a lot. They inspire me a lot. I want to get into the 10% and also help fellow students to pursue their passion. Thanks for having them. Means both of you. So, and on that, I want to thank you as well very much for your time. Really appreciate it. I learned a lot today, and people who are watching, thank you. And people will be watching this later. Thank you very much, and we'll be in touch again.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank
Have
you,
a good day.
Have a good day,
Thank you.
afternoon, evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.